What's going on? What's going on? It's Kilo, and we are back for another episode of the regular podcast on the regular network.
It's real.
Okay, what's going on, y'all? Listen, we back doing this whole pre-recorded thing, right? I know some people have never seen a pre-recorded. They have only seen what the podcast looks like when it's streaming. But I started with pre-recording. I've been doing pre-recorded since 2016. I was only streaming during 2024 because I got lazy. It was easier. It's way easier to stream. I don't have to edit. I could do everything live, but I'm getting back to my roots, right? So how was everybody's week? Y'all been cool? I've been cool, chilling, vibing, maxing, everything in between. It's a lot going on in the political world right now. We're going to get to that. It's a lot going on, period, as always. But, how was your week? Put it in the comments, please. Before we do anything else, subscribe to the video, subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment your thoughts below, share the video. There is a survey link in the chat. In the description. You can fill that out. Let me know what type of content you really want to see from this channel. Like I said, we're getting back grooving, right? So, as I told y'all, I've been in therapy, right? And just another similar message came across my desk that made me say, man, all right, it's time for me to really get cracking on these ideas that I have, right? So let me tell y'all, I told y'all a couple weeks ago that I had a VP at work said, great is the enemy of good, right? And then my therapist has said, sometimes perfection is a weakness, right? So those two things go in the same realm to me because they really flow with the vibe of, paralysis by analysis type of thing. You know what I'm saying? We want to be perfect, so it'll stop us from doing anything at all. It helps us procrastinate, or we let the idea of perfection or greatness get in the way of really making any progress at all. But then another quote that is very in line with all of that came across my desk this week. And it said, make it exist first, make it good later. And I was like, okay. I said, okay. Enough is enough. Enough is enough. It's time to really get going. So, you know what I'm saying? I went and got the whiteboard out. I really started planning now. Now I'm drawing my maps out. I mean, really, I already had an idea of something that I was going to get into, something that could be big, but something that my expertise is already based in. I'm like, it's time for me to start figuring out how to make money in this thing myself, right? Instead of making these things help these companies generate money, I need to make it for me, something I own, right? So I just start mapping it out. You know what I'm saying? It's coming sooner than later. So if anybody else needed that message, there you go. Because it definitely was one I needed. Okay. Another thing I got going on still, I'm not as on it as I was, but I'm still trying to do my diet thing, but it's not really working as good because I've been very hungry. So I've been eating dinner again. What I was trying to do is no breakfast, just water for breakfast, or a freshly made juice for breakfast that I made myself. No sugar, of course, in that juice. One lunch, I would eat a regular lunch, and then no dinner at all, just water for the rest of the day. I was trying that for a while. I lost 10 pounds doing that in 2 weeks, and then I started eating again. So, of course, some of that weight came back, but I'm still down overall. I'm in a net loss of weight. I'm going to get back to it, though. I'm going to get back to it. Probably tomorrow, maybe. Well, right now it's Friday evening, but tomorrow I'll probably hit up Publix, give me some more fruits, veggies, all that good stuff, and make another juice. Probably some beet juice with apples and lemon in it, ginger. That's my go-to. All right, let's get right into this part of this political stuff. I mean, last time I talked about the Iran and Israel thing, I put clips out, and the clips were very dated because a whole lot of stuff had changed from then, right? So let's get our most recent update. Give me a second. Let me pull this up. and I'm following this because this is a wild situation. You know what I'm saying? We can't really not talk about it. Okay. So let's read here. Trump was pretty much doing a press conference, and he was like, he pretty much said he would strike Iran again if they started to build their nuclear weapons program. Right. Let's read through some of this because this is like America's kind of crazy. The way we feel like we could just tell people that they can't build the weapons that they want to build, even though we have them, is very strange to me. But I guess if you have the bigger military, you can really do and say whatever you want to other countries. President Donald Trump said he's open to conducting additional strikes against Iran should Tehran pick up its nuclear program again to a level that is concerning to the U.S. Right? So we just get to tell them, like, you know what I'm saying, you could do stuff, but don't do it at the point where it concerns us as Americans, okay? This is why they hate us worldwide, okay, by the way. Trump said, sure, without question, absolutely. Trump told reporters Friday when asked about the possibility of subsequent strikes. Trump has previously issued similar warnings to Iran and said Wednesday at the NATO summit in the Netherlands that if Tehran were to seek to repair its nuclear program once more, the U.S. wouldn't hesitate to move forward with additional strikes. It's crazy that they even think they have accurate information on what they're doing over there. Here's an image of the map of pretty much where the strikes have happened so far, right? Trump also slammed Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who declared victory over Israel on Thursday. Trump countered Ayatollah's claims and said that he had spared him from death. Trump said, I knew exactly where he was sheltered and would not let Israel or the U.S. armed forces, by far the most powerful in the world, terminate his life. Trump said in a post on Truth Social Friday, I saved him from a very ugly and ignominious death, and he does not have to say thank you, President Trump. So Trump pretty much said, you know how, when you're in the streets, you're beefing and all that. Yeah, I knew where you was at. I could have did it to you, but I decided not to. You know what I mean? I let you live. Pretty much saying, I let you live. That's what he's saying, in other words. Like, I knew where you and your boys was at, and I let you live. Very common threat that you hear in the streets. Excuse me, y'all. Let me respond to this. Yeah, very common threat in the streets. You know what I mean? I let you live. I saw you with your people. I let you live. You was with your kids and all that. I spared you, right? I think he even used that word. What did he say? He said saved him. I saved him from a very ugly and ignominious. I got to look that word up. Ignominious death. Let me see if I'm even saying it right. So anyway, yeah, Trump was talking crazy, but I guess, he feels like he can do that whenever he feels like it, because who's going to stop him from talking like this? Right? Let me look up the word. I'm sure a lot of people were looking it up today. Listen to this.
Ignominious.
Okay, I was saying it the right way. Ignominious, marked by or attended with ignominy, discreditable, humiliating, bearing or deserving ignominy, contemptible. So that's what the word means. Very old word from it's a Latin, comes from a Latin word, but the word was first recorded in English in the 1300s. Okay. Very old word. Trump went in the bag for that one. I don't think that came from Trump, though. Whoever's running his social media put that on there. I don't think it came from him. I wish the leader of Iran would realize that you often get more with honey than you do with vinegar. Peace, Trump said. Now, Trump putting peace, like, come on, who's running this account? I need to know. The U.S. launched strikes Saturday targeting key Iranian nuclear facilities, which involve more than 125 U.S. aircraft. Chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff told reporters on Sunday. Following the strikes, Trump said in an address to the nation that the mission left the nuclear sites completely and totally obliterated. But days later, a leaked report from the Defense Intelligence Agency published by CNN and the New York Times cast doubt on those claims, saying that the airstrikes had only set back Iran's nuclear program by several months. Like, here's my thing, right? America has people deep within the crevices of the Iranian government and their nuclear program, for us to be able to say with confidence, either way, right? With confidence, yes, we hit key nuclear sites, and yes, they have been obliterated, or we got intelligence from the inside that we did hit nuclear sites, but they weren't obliterated. We only set them back a couple months. Regardless of which side of that thing is true, how is America getting that information? I don't know if y'all know, but most places, a country's nuclear program, especially a military nuclear program, is extremely classified information. That's not something they can just get on Google to find out what is Iran doing with their nuclear program, right? Only way that they can do this is for people working high up in that military to be funneling spies, right? To be funneling information back to American military or defense agency, right? So somebody is playing an extremely dangerous game over there right now with their life. I don't know how they are passing this information back, but they better be safe. Meanwhile, the U.S., Israel, and Iran's foreign ministry have all said that the 3 nuclear sites the U.S. forces struck have encountered massive damage. Okay, the fact that we even know where their nuclear sites are, where they're building things at, what they're building at those locations, tells me that these countries are not equipped to be in battle with America. All right, we have spies everywhere. According to, and this is the craziest thing about the spies that we have, right? Because America is what America is, and everybody seems to want to come here and become a citizen here, they are willing to be traitors to their own people just to get in the good graces of the American government. And not to say that they care about the patriotism in America, but because a lot of benefits come from being an American patriot, I guess. So if you come here and let's say you're an Iranian and they can, send you to some school, you go learn and go be a part of the CIA at first, and then they say, okay, we're ready to send you international so that we can get you to take on these missions, right? Part of the missions will be you will have to go over there. I know you were raised in America, but go over there. You look like everybody else. Learn the language, sit there for a few years, and then make your way into their military. And because we sent you to Ivy League schools here in America, you're intelligent enough to make your way through the ranks and up through the ranks in their nuclear programs, right? So go do that. You're going to spend 10, 20 years over there doing that. And then before you know it, you'll be a high-ranking military official over there. They'll think you've been there your whole life, but the whole time you'll be working for the American government. That's essentially what's going on over there. And not just over there, just everywhere. All over the world, America is doing that. They have done that. We have spies everywhere. I don't know if they call them spies anymore. Whatever the term is in modern day, we have them everywhere. All right. So according to Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, the FBI is conducting an investigation to get to the bottom of the matter and who shared the document with the media. So that just tells you that the information is correct, that we did not, in fact, decimate their nuclear program. We just set it back a couple months. And they knew that. They're playing a major propaganda game for whatever reason. I'm not understanding why this war or why this battle is being fought so much with the media. It's just more about who's leaking their information the fastest. Like they said earlier in the article, Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah declared victory over Israel on Thursday. Like, why would he do that? I don't understand that. It's nowhere near over. So I'm not getting that. But so that's the updates on the Iranian situation. Y'all let me know what y'all think about it. I think it's very crazy. It's getting super out of hand. I don't know any other way to put it. One thing I would like to see is America to get out of it. Has nothing to do with us. Leave them people alone. Let them battle their own fight. Last week, a few days ago, Trump was in the media cussing because he was so mad. He asked them to cease fire for a little bit while they negotiate some things. And Israel and Iran just kept bombing each other after Trump told them, hey, y'all, be cool. So Trump said they don't know what the F they're doing. That's what he said on the news. Like, he didn't care. He was mad. Let me take a little swig of water right quick. All right. Take a little swig of water. Hold up. All right. Excuse me. I was at the gym today, man. So, I need water. I need a lot of water. Did triceps today. You know what I mean? It was a good workout. I worked out my back a few days ago, man. I came home like wildly sweaty. I soaked my hoodie, my shirt. It was out of hand. Okay. Let's see. What do we have next? Now, because we're talking about Trump, let's go ahead right into like the major news story that popped today. The biggest news story that dropped today is related to Constitution and amendments and citizenship, and it's cracking right now. It is going crazy right now. Have y'all heard about this? They are ending, or Trump is attempting to end birthright citizenship for immigrants or people who come here illegally and the babies of those people. All right. Let's get into it. Now, this is a big topic if you are in the Black American conscious community reparations movement, what some people call the group FBA, Foundational Black Americans. I'm going to tell you, like, I don't personally put that label on myself, although the way that that's classified, I would be considered FBA, but I don't call myself that, mainly because that group, like, it was like a Twitter group that pretty much started out of a response to Tariq Nasheed getting into it with Yvette Carnell, right? Yvette Carnell, Antonio Moore, they started an organization called ADOS, you know what I'm saying? It was American Descendants of Slaves Advocacy Foundation or Advocacy Organization. I can't remember exactly what the final piece is, but ADOS, right? ADOS. And everybody was on one page at one point, and it was all about tangibles, and we need to get reparations, we need to delineate, all this type of stuff, right? And then something happened between Yvette and Tariq Nasheed on Twitter, and it caused the group to splinter. And then they went in two separate directions, right? So then half the people went and kept following Yvette, half the people went and kept on following Tariq Nasheed, right? The problem is Tariq Nasheed is an extremely toxic social media leader, right? I wouldn't call him like a black community leader, but more like a leader on social media, and not leader in a good or bad way. Just there's a lot of people that follow him and will do what he does, right? So because he likes to sometimes joke on people, that's his way of getting back at people that don't like him. He'll tell jokes about him and stuff like that. The people that went his route and followed his direction after splitting from the ADOS movement, they pretty much just went all through social media, just really attacking people. Really, that's what they did. And then they put the label on themselves, FBA, Foundational Black American. Now, the problem with that is because Tariq Nasheed has such a large following that they became known. They became like the face of Black America almost, especially on social media. So now a lot of times when people start talking about, they start talking about Black Americans, but in their mind, they're using what they know about FBA, the Twitter group, pretty much, right? And they're putting that on all Black Americans. So the stuff that they see FBA people that claim FBA, stuff they see them say, they put it on everybody, right? So that has like really derailed how Black Americans are viewed on social media. I keep saying on social media because I don't know anything that they're doing outside of social media. And to my knowledge, they don't have much of a movement outside of social media. That's really where it's focused at. And I'm not knocking, I'm not trying to put them down or nothing like that, but for what I know is they keep a lot of what they do on socials. You know, it's kind of like Tariq Nasheed's beehive, pretty much, right? And that's a big thing in the Black American conscious community because a lot of the people have been saying for a long time that certain illegal immigrants have been coming to America and trying to use things that were set up for Black Americans in their benefit when it was never for them in the first place, right? That I just went down a long, windy path just to get back to that. But anyway, the groups have been saying, the Black American groups have been saying that stuff was never for you guys, never for immigrants in the first place. It was for Black American freedmen. And now it has come to pass that Trump is now saying the exact same thing. He's saying the 14th Amendment was never for immigrants. It was always for, he said, the babies of slaves. That's what he said, right? That's the words he used. Excuse me. The 14th Amendment was never about immigrants. It was always about black people who had been freed, and some white people in certain states, or some states were saying that black people could not be citizens, right? And the federal government said, yes, they can, and they are. And they vote, and they do everything that everybody else is doing. So they are citizens. Here's the 14th Amendment, just to make sure we put it in law, right? So that's where the 14th Amendment originally comes from. We are about to get into it, but let's read this article. Supreme Court limits nationwide injunctions in birthright citizenship order. Now, this is kind of like legal heavy, right? So it's very legal, a lot of legalese in here. So let's just go ahead and try to, clunk our way through this thing. Let me see. I got a couple of texts. Let me see. Okay, let's clunk our way through this. Supreme Court, in a 6-3 decision along ideological lines on Friday, sided with the Trump administration's request to limit universal injunctions issued by federal courts. The opinion in birthright citizenship case was highly anticipated. At issue was how the lower courts should handle President Trump's executive order, which declared that the children of parents who enter the U.S. illegally on a temporary visa are not entitled to automatic citizenship. Now, I want to be very clear with this thing here, right? They are not saying that people who come here this way cannot be granted citizenship. They're just saying you're not automatically a citizen because you're born here. That's dead. If your parents come here illegally and you're born here, you're not automatically a citizen. Does not mean you can't become a citizen. You just are not automatically granted citizenship. And you could be shipped back with your parents. So that's what they're saying. The majority opinion, written by Justice Amy Coney Barrett, didn't rule on whether Trump's executive order violates the 14th Amendment or the Nationality Act. Instead, it focused on whether federal courts have the power to issue nationwide blocks. Universal injunctions likely exceed the equitable authority that Congress has given to the federal courts, the conservative majority said. Now, I'm reading this all weird. Okay. The court grants the government's application for a partial stay of the injunctions entered below, but only to the extent that the injunctions are broader than necessary to provide complete relief to each plaintiff withstanding to sue. Again, clunking through this whole thing. Friday's opinion asked the lower courts to reconsider their broad rulings in light of the Supreme Court's opinions and otherwise with principles of equity. However, the opinion also said that Trump's birthright citizenship order can't take effect for 30 days from Friday's opinion, giving more time for legal challenges. And we already know like a whole bunch of people are already starting to sue. 22 states already sued. A bunch of civil rights organizations already sued. Or so the lawsuits are already rolling in, right? They're not going to let Trump get away with this. Trump made a rare appearance in the White House briefing room after the decision, calling it a monumental victory for the Constitution, the separation of powers, and the rule of law. Hold on. Can y'all hear me? All right. The rule of law. Where we at here? He said the ruling would allow his administration to move forward with key elements of his immigration policy without the threat of broad injunctions against them. Attorney General Pam Bondi, who joined Trump at the press conference, said that the ruling means Americans are finally getting what they voted for. She noted that the merits of the birthright citizenship order haven't been litigated yet and declined to answer questions about how it would be implemented and enforced. Excuse me. Dissenting from Friday's decision were the court's 3 liberal judges. Writing for the 3 of them, Justice Sonia Sotomayor said the government's rush to limit nationwide injunctions disregards basic principles of equity as well as the long history of injunctive relief granted to non-parties. Immigrant rights groups in 22 states had sued over Trump's birthright citizenship order, and 3 different federal district court judges invalidated Trump's order, issuing what are called universal injunctions, barring the administration from enforcing the Trump policy anywhere in the United States. When the Court of Appeals refused to intervene with the litigation, while the litigation proceeded, the Trump administration asked the Supreme Court to block universal injunctions altogether. Okay, so while Friday's decision is procedural, the issue at the center of the case is Trump's long held but fringe view that there is no such thing as automatic citizenship for people born in the United States. On his first day in office this year, he signed an executive order declaring that babies born in the U.S. may not be citizens if their parents were not here legally, or if the parents here legally but on temporary basis, like with a work visa. Trump's view, however, is directly contradicted by the Supreme Court ruling 127 years ago, a decision that has never been disturbed and is based on the text of the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution. Now, this is where we start to get real, you know what I mean? Let's get into the theory, the philosophy of this whole thing, because the argument goes the 14th Amendment was for everybody. That's one argument versus no, the 14th Amendment was about the people it was talking about when it was written, which is Black Americans who were freed from slavery. Let's get into this. The amendment says all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States. It was enacted in 1866 after the Civil War and was aimed at reversing the Supreme Court's infamous Dred Scott decision, which had declared that black people, enslaved or free, could not be citizens. It has always been applied to anyone born in the United States, and the Supreme Court on Friday did nothing to change that 150-year understanding. Now, here's the thing. When they wrote that amendment, they had not factored in the idea that America would be this place that all of these new immigrants would come to, right? Even though they had been coming here from Europe for a long time. The amendment wasn't even addressing white people at all. Like, it was specifically about reversing the Dred Scott decision. The Dred Scott decision, let's read here. Let's read for the people who don't know about the Dred Scott decision. Okay. This is nasty. Let me see. Oh, tripping. Okay. Y'all know about the Dred Scott decision? That picture right there, that's Dred Scott. This is Britannica's website. Okay, Dred Scott decision. Okay, Dred Scott, a legal case in which the U.S. Supreme Court on March 6, 1857 ruled 7-2 that a slave, Dred Scott, who had resided in a free state and territory where slavery was prohibited, was not thereby entitled to his freedom, that African Americans were not and could never be citizens of the United States, and the Missouri Compromise, which had declared free all territories west of Missouri and north of this location, was unconstitutional. The decision added fuel to the sectional controversy and pushed the country closer to a civil war. Okay, essentially what happened, I'll just give you the short story of it, right? This is what happened. Dred Scott was enslaved, right? Let me take this. Dred Scott was an enslaved man, right? He belonged to some white people that were in Missouri. Those white people moved up to Illinois with him, with Dred Scott, and they moved up to Wisconsin at different points, right? Then they moved back to Missouri. When they came back to Missouri, Dred Scott essentially sued his owner, the person that owned him legally, sued him because Missouri has some type of like de facto law that says once free, always free, right? Essentially, if you went to a state where you were free, if you come back to Missouri, you're still free. Like, you don't have to get back into slavery. Missouri had that, like, we call it de facto law or like a local law, right? That said that. But when Dred Scott ended up suing the owner so what happened was pretty much the owner, the man, died, right? So Dred Scott pretty much told the wife, hey, let us free. Let me and my wife free. The wife was like, no, I'm not letting you go. So he sued, and it was shut down, right? Because Missouri, well, first of all, he sued and he won, right? He won in the state court. But then the Supreme Court of Missouri took it over, and then he lost in the Supreme Court. So then he decided, okay, well, the wife was like, okay, I'm done with this, dealing with this slave shit, right? She gave Dred Scott over to the brother, right? Gave it over to her brother-in-law. So now the brother-in-law is the owner of Dred Scott. So then the brother-in-law lives in New York. So because we cross the state lines now, Dred Scott felt like, okay, I'm going to take this lawsuit to the federal government. So now Dred Scott is suing this New York man for his freedom, right? So then that's where we get the Supreme Court stuff going on. The Supreme Court said, hey, you can't sue him. So we're not even going to really take the case and decide whether or not you should be free or not. You can't sue him because you are not a citizen in this country. You can't be a citizen in this country because black people can't be citizens in America. Now, there was a lot of opposition to this in northern states, but the South, they was loving it, right? So the Supreme Court, like they ruled against Dred Scott's lawsuit, so he was really never heard. Now, he started suing, in whatever, 1850, something like that. They didn't end up, he died in like 1858. So he never even got to see the 14th Amendment, right? This whole reversing the Dred Scott thing, he never got the benefit from that because he ended up passing away. So what happened was essentially years later, so at this point now, the Supreme Court has ruled black people cannot be citizens of this country, right? Now, even though a bunch of states, they disagreed with that. And they was like, nah, that's not true. We're going to let black people be free in our state. And not only will they be free, we're going to let them vote. Because black people had already been voting in America anyway at that time. And this is before the Civil War. Black people was voting already. Let me do some. Let me go read this real quick to tell y'all exactly what they were. It was a lot of people that was against what was happening in Missouri. Give me a second. Let me read this. Give me 1 second. It was a very crazy situation. Oh, let me read this now. They even said, watch this. Here you go. Taney is the person who was pretty much being the main justice or main judge for the Supreme Court that was against black people becoming citizens in America. Taney would have been on reasonably strong ground had he limited himself to upholding the district court's decision based on the idea that status was to be determined by the states. Alternatively, he could have held that Scott was not entitled to sue Sanford in federal court on the basis of diversity of jurisdiction, because Missouri did not allow even free African Americans to be citizens. But Taney outraged much of the North by asserting that African Americans could never be citizens in the United States. The framers, in his view, did not regard African Americans as being among the people whose benefit and protection the new government was founded, notwithstanding the perfectly general language of the Declaration of Independence and the preamble to the Constitution. Two justices, John McLean of Ohio and Benjamin Curtis of Massachusetts, wrote devastating critiques of Taney's opinion. Curtis, in particular, undercut most of Taney's historical arguments, showing that African Americans had voted in a number of states at the founding. At the time of the ratification of the Articles of Confederation, he wrote, all free native-born inhabitants of the state of New Hampshire, Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, and North Carolina, though descendants from African slaves, were not only citizens of those states, but such of them as had the necessary qualifications possessed the franchise of electors on equal terms with other citizens. Now, that's how they spoke back in the 1800s. What he's saying is pretty much the free black people in those states was voting, just like any white person was voting. So, and they showed northern states and one in the South. So North Carolina, black people were voting at the time of the Articles of Confederation, which is before the Constitution. Articles of Confederation is like, 10 years before the Constitution? Like, right, like 1787. It's like not 1787. It's like right after the Declaration of Independence. Then the Articles of Confederation came, right? So 1777, something like that. So they're saying that there were free black people in these states and they were already voting. North Carolina is in the South. They were voting already in North Carolina in the 1700s, right? So that's what Curtis is saying. Thus, Curtis argued that they were members of the nation and could not now be denied the right to citizenship, right? So in this whole thing, right? This whole thing around the 14th Amendment becoming ratified in the Constitution, was all about black people getting citizenship in America. It was not about, now, the problem with the Constitution, even though, let's read the 14th Amendment because I got you here. Let me read it. Section 1. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. That's section 1. Section 2, representatives shall be appointed among the several states according to their respective numbers, counting the whole number of persons in each state, excluding Indians not taxed. But when the right to vote at any election for the choice of electors for president and vice president of the United States, representatives of Congress, and the executive and judicial officers of a state, or the members of the legislature thereof, is denied to any of the male inhabitants of such state between 21 years of age and citizens of the United States, or in any way abridged except for participation in rebellion or other crime, the basis of representation therein shall be reduced in the proportion which the number of such male citizens shall bear to the number whole of male citizens 21 years of age in such state. Okay, that's long. No, okay, so the part that we're discussing here is 14th Amendment, Section 1, right? This whole thing about that. Now, when you see this whole all persons born thing, they don't want to racialize the stuff in the Constitution. They didn't do that. Even when they were referring to black people as all 3/5 of a person and all that, they still didn't say like all black people or whatever, right? They said 3/5 of a person. So even here, when they say all persons born or naturalized in the United States are subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens and of the state wherein they reside, the reason that they threw that state thing in there is because they were battling with Missouri about how to classify black people and how they were saying, hey, y'all can do whatever y'all want in y'all states. In Missouri, we don't play like that. But the Supreme Court was saying they can't be citizens in the state or in the federal government. So that's the reason why you have this thing about the state, because nowadays when you hear people talk about citizenship, you never hear anybody say something like, well, I'm a citizen of Texas. I'm a citizen of California. I'm a citizen. Even though they are residents of these states, people don't say I'm a citizen of that state, because per the Constitution, if you are a citizen of a state, you are automatically a citizen of the federal government. It's just, that's how it works. If any state that's part of America, if you're a citizen of that state, you can be a citizen of America, right? So they added these pieces in here because they were referencing and combating a very specific thing at a very specific time in American history. So it's very interesting. You're getting into constitutional law and you got interpretation. What did they mean then versus what do they mean now? And can we interpret this thing per modern ideologies? I don't know. It's a wild situation. And I think that, again, Black Americans are protected no matter what. There's so many people that would have to be kicked out this country before they ever got to us. Like, we're talking about 1866 right here, right? You got to think about it. By 1866, we had been here for hundreds of years by that point. Hundreds of years. So even if they said, okay, no, the 14th Amendment applies to everybody, we're still protected. If they said, no, the 14th Amendment applies to only people who were babies of slaves or whatever, we're still protected then. If they say, no, the 14th Amendment, we're getting rid of the 14th Amendment, period, we're still protected because we're citizens, period. There's no way around it for us. Now, for other people, and I think the craziest thing about all this conversation is, I think a lot of the people that would be impacted by getting rid of the birthright citizenship would be middle-aged white people from America, from New York City. I think a lot of them were born from parents who came to America illegally. A lot of them were. I think, well, I'm not going to say Trump came here illegally, but one of his parents is for sure an immigrant, right? They're saying Melania Trump is a straight up she shouldn't have citizenship. I don't know how true it is, but there's a lot of people who came, and I'll say the people that came through New York, a lot of people, I'm talking about middle-aged white people, right? New York, Boston, Philly, Pittsburgh, Cleveland. I'm just following that whole track over through the Midwest. Cleveland, Chicago, Detroit. Just follow it right over there. Just so stop at Detroit, right? A lot of the white people that came in the country like within the last 75 years, a lot of them, their parents weren't legal. Or not that came in the country, but a lot of ones that were born in the country, that were first generation American, their parents didn't come here legally, a lot of them. A lot of them came here without legit paperwork. You understand? So a lot of, if people really wanted to attack this thing the right way, they would go after them also. And that might make them back down a little bit. If y'all wanted them to back down, I don't know what you want them to do. But shout out Dred Scott. He died before he was able to actually realize some of the benefit from his fight. But you got to think about it, right? This is what I try to mention, try to bring up to people a lot, is that some of the stuff that they were telling us, it was horrible, right? But they're still not telling us the true story about what was going on back then, right? Because when they make you think that the only thing going on before the Civil War was that black people were being tied up to trees, hanged, whooped, couldn't read, couldn't write, couldn't do anything. When they make you believe that we didn't start doing anything in America until 1865, they shape a lot of how you think about black people in this country. But when you look at it and you say, why have we never talked about the fact that Dred Scott himself went in a legal battle with the person who quote unquote owned him, like took his slave master to court. Like, we're not talking about how this black man had the intelligence and the wherewithal to say, hey, I'm free. I know the law. I'm free. I should be free because I know Missouri law. Like, he's in his state fighting with his state law, and he actually won the lawsuit in the 1850s in a state where he was a slave. Right? People just like kind of gloss over that, kind of just ignore the fact that this man was a slave, and they tell you that slaves couldn't read and write, but he knew the law enough to sue and win. And then the Supreme Court in his state ended up reversing that decision, but he did win the first case, right? Why is that not talked about more often? It's only talked about that, hey, it was illegal for us to read and write. We just read the piece where we say, like, there was a politician, there was a politician at that time in the 1850s who said, hey, black Americans were voting during the time of the Articles of Confederation, meaning before this country was formed legally with a documentation called the U.S. Constitution. Black people were voting before this place was even a country, before this place was even a nation. Black people were already voting. They were voting during the Articles of Confederation. What does that tell you? In the South, not just up north, but in the South. He said North Carolina was one of the places that we were voting at. Right? So, and they had strict qualifications for black people back then. And there were still black people who met all the qualifications and voted. Think about that. They don't talk about that though. You rarely hear any mention of black people voting during the time of the late 1700s. You never hear about that. They bury that stuff in deep. And it's a thing about conditioning modern black people, us. Conditioning us to make us think we're the first intelligent black people, and like everybody else before us was baboons. That's the conditioning. We are the first signs of life for our group, and everything before us was idiotic and buffoonery. That's kind of what they're shaping it to be when you don't. I mean, even if you deal with, if you learn from a lot of black scholars, even they don't talk about. They also talk about like we weren't reading and writing before 1865, right? So the information is really just buried, but they never tell you black people was voting in the 1700s. That never comes up. And I say black people, clearly it was black men because it was still the whole patriarchy thing going on and misogyny and all that. So it was men, but still black people were voting in the 1700s. So we were definitely voting in the 1800s before 1865. You never hear about it though, right? So I mean, I went a lot longer than I. Okay, so Trump responded to the decision on Truth Social, saying it's a giant win. He implied that immigrants were trying to scam the process to get U.S. citizenship, and that the 14th Amendment was meant to give citizenship only to the babies of slaves. Same year, right? So that's a quote from Trump. 14th Amendment was for the babies of slaves, and it was. It was about slaves getting citizenship after getting freedom. That's the only thing it was about. But, they had to do the all people thing. Okay. All right. I need to know how y'all feel about that. That's a heavy one. It's heavy. I know if there's some people who will be impacted by this, I'm sure that it's not fun to be in a position like that. But I mean, it is interesting. I mean, I don't know what else to say about it. It's very interesting. So I was going to talk about this for a while, and I just haven't gotten to it. But today is the day, right? Because I've been wanting to say this for a minute. Like, I remember a couple of years ago, for the people who was paying attention to what I was doing a couple of years ago, not many of y'all were. 2021, I made a video telling people about these real estate companies, these investment companies buying up all these properties, right? Buying up all these houses, and they were destroying the market, especially in the Atlanta market. The Atlanta market was hit the hardest. It had the highest inflation rate in the country, had a home price inflation rate by percentage in the country, right? It also had the highest rental inflation rate in the country over the last 3 years, right? Why is that? First of all, as I said many times, anywhere with this much black dollars, anywhere where this amount of black dollars are together, corporate schemers, scammers, and fraudsters are coming. They are coming to extract those dollars from you, right? And I know people think about just the people who get the face of the scammers, like I don't even want to say their names, but the people who associate on podcasts and things like that. That's not even what I'm talking about. I'm talking about corporate scams. I'm talking about the people who get more in line with like predatory lending, that type of stuff. Atlanta's going to be a huge target for that because there's a lot of black money here, right? So what happened was there's all type of investigations going on. But anyway, companies like Zillow, Open Door, Divvy, they came to Atlanta, started buying up everything in massive numbers, right? This started in like probably 2020. Start buying up everything in massive numbers. By the time 2022 got here, the home prices here was just so ridiculously inflated. Let me see if I can show you a good graphic. I do have give me a second. Let me pull this up. By the time 2022 got here, look at this chart, right? From here, oh shit. Oh, you can't even, okay. From August 2020 up until August 2022, look at the slope on this chart. No area, this is specifically for Atlanta, right? In no area should the median home prices rise almost 100,000, which this is like, so if we talking about 100,000 growth in 2 years, this is from 300 to 400,000. That's a 33% raise in home prices in just 2 years. That's irregular, right? The only way you get that type of irregular growth is to have irregular activity by investors, a whole bunch of cash purchases, overinflating prices and everything like that, right? So that's what happened. Pretty much making it so regular people couldn't even afford to buy houses anymore. It was all investors buying houses at that point, right? So what happened was these companies started buying up all of these houses, messing up the inventory, messing up the home values, messing up home prices, and inflating everything. So then about 2022 to 3, things started to just like calm down. Things started to calm down. And then you seen what I noticed is that now I'm seeing, these houses are being put on the market, but the people posting them to be sold, the sellers, cannot sell these houses at this point. I'm seeing houses sit for a very long time. I'm seeing the prices that they're trying to sell it for are extremely inflated because they're trying to sell it for more money than what they bought it for a year prior or whatever. You know what investors do, right? I bought a house for $375. I feel like I got to sell it for $450 then a year later. That's how they was trying to play it. So many Atlanta neighborhoods have these extremely inflated, the ideas of inflated home values, but the values are not really up like that. It's the home selling prices up, but the value is not up because they're not going to be able to sell these houses for these prices. They just have to list it for that price, right? So my whole thing was, now is the time. Now, this is what they call a buyer's market, right? And I say this, now is the time to come in here and take advantage of those investors the way that they took advantage of home buyers for the last 4 years. Now, if you are in the market for a house, now is the time. Go take advantage of these people. Don't offer list price for nothing right now. I wouldn't even come within 10, 15, 20,000 of list price. Go way down. Take advantage of these people. They have run out of money. They have run out of resources, run out of options. They're not even talking about real estate no more. These people are trying to liquidate everything they can to keep the cribs that they have, or they're trying to sell them for dirt cheap. They're trying to wholesale. They're trying to do anything they can. These people have run out of money. They're doing halfway renovations. They're doing the cheapest renovations you ever seen. Some of them try to get into the development game. That's not working because those houses are not selling at those inflated prices either. Take advantage of these people right now. Get you a house now. The only thing that's saving them for real is the interest rates. That's the only thing saving them, because a lot more people would be buying. But I'm gonna tell y'all, and I every turn, I have been right on these things with this real estate stuff. Y'all need to listen. If you want a crib, now's the time to get you one. But you need to come way under asking. That's where you need to be with it, right? Let me read this. This is a SoFi report. Atlanta is known by many names. Some prefer city in the forest or city of trees because Atlanta's unique tree canopy. Of course, Hotlanta has a nice ring to it. By any name, roughly 510,800 people choose to live in Atlanta. Atlanta's roots go, here we go. According to the most recent Council for Community and Economic Research Cost of Living Index, the overall cost of living in Atlanta is about 4% below the national average, but 9% above the state average in Georgia. Despite some of the higher costs, a lot of people clearly love living in Atlanta. The population increasing by nearly 90,000 from 2010 to 2023, according to the latest census data. Also, approximately 80% of Atlanta homeowners stayed in the same house over the past year, according to the most recent census data. Okay. Now, look at this. This is what I'm talking about right here. The median time on the market is 84 days. That's horrible. That's terrible, right? The reason that these houses are sitting this long, it's almost 3 months. The reason they're sitting this long is because the prices are through the roof. And 380 for Atlanta is through the roof because Atlanta is not one of the higher earning cities. Like, the incomes in Atlanta are not that high, right? So 380 is a lot of money here, especially because just a few years ago in 2020, I know for sure in 2020, you could get a nice 4,000 square foot house for about $275 here in Atlanta, right? That's unheard of now. The Atlanta housing market has seen diminished activity in recent years. According to Zillow, in March 2025, home prices were down 2.4% over the past year. Redfin numbers show home prices down 10.6% over the same period. Atlanta's real estate slowdown began in the summer of 2022. This is what I told y'all, when demand leveled off. As we head into spring 2025, inventory is taking longer to sell. That's good news for buyers. If you fall in love with a house that is within your range, chances are you could stay within budget. Okay? So this is just some data about these neighborhoods. Let's go to this is Rocket. Okay. Median sold price, $425,000. Way too high for a city making what they're making here, what we make in this city. This is considered a buyer's market right now. Okay. Let me see if I can. Dang, when I read it, see, when I was on my phone, this was a regular article. This is all charts and weird. Okay. Let me go to Redfin right here. Okay, Georgia housing market. Home prices in Georgia were down 0.6% year over year in May. At the same time, the number of homes sold fell 6.1%, and the number of homes for sale rose 17.8%. So there are more people listing houses for sale and less of those homes being sold, right? So 6% less being sold year over year, but 17% more being listed. So inventory is up right now. So it's a lot. It's very good. Now this one says 45 days on the market. Okay, so that report was from the other report was from earlier in the year, but because the spring just got here, you know, when the spring into summer comes, more houses get sold. But if you see this though, February 2025 versus February 2024, there's a huge difference in the homes that were being sold, or how long homes were being listed for before selling. So what we just saw in February 2025 was the highest in the last 5 years. There's no numbers even close to that, right? And that's even in the pandemic, homes were selling better than what it was in February this year. Okay. Okay, see, they completely show different stuff on the phone versus the computer. Okay, so right now there are almost 60,000 homes for sale, which is almost 18% more than last year. The number of newly listed homes was 16,000, which is down 3.4% year over year. They're sitting for 4 months, or the average months of supply is 4 months. Georgia housing demand. How competitive is the market? In May 2025, 21.3% of homes in Georgia sold above list price, which is down 4.4 points year over year. There were only 32.3% of homes that had price drops, up from 27% of homes last May. So last year, 27% of the houses that got listed had a price drop before they sold. This year, 32%. So this is what I'm saying. Like, these people are having to get rid of their stuff, right? They're dropping their prices just to get rid of the stuff. There was a 98% sale to list price, down 0.54 points year over year. What's this one here? Okay, homes sold. So look, in 2022, right? Let's go 5 years. Look at this. In May of 2022, 55% of the homes sold. 55% of the homes that got sold for over asking price, right? This point right here, this is where I bought my house that I'm in right now. So that was 50% of the houses were going. So June of 2021, 50% of the houses were going above asking. Now we are in 2025, and just over 20% are going over asking. Earlier in the year, it was like 10% of the houses going over asking, which is good for buyers. It's bad for sellers, though. So my good people, y'all need to jump on that. Because if you look at the trend, right? You look at the trend in the summer to or the spring to summertime, like, you know, over asking is high, then it gets low. 2023 went low, then it went higher. Then 2024, wintertime went low. 2025, mid 2024, even at their peak, was about 25% above asking. So you got 2025 here, which is the lowest it's been in the last at least 5 years. Even the peak of 2025 is not going to get to 25%. So by the time we get back to the winter, like the winter of 2025 going into 2026, home prices will be way down. Take advantage. Please take advantage of this. They even have trends of people and where they're moving to and from. So clearly, a lot of people are leaving from California and a lot of people are moving to Florida. Very clear. People are moving all across the South, period, right? Mostly in Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina. This is Alabama. Let's see here. Florida, more than 30,000 people were searching to move into Florida state versus out of state. California, more than 47,000 people were searching to move out of California. So this is not people who actually have left. This is people who are looking to leave. Searched. So these are people just searching. Okay, they haven't actually moved. Top 10 areas people are moving from: LA, New York, Seattle, San Francisco, DC, Chicago, Philly, Boston, Denver, Hartford, Connecticut. All expensive cities to live in. Top 10 areas people are moving to: Sacramento, Phoenix, Cape Coral, Florida, Orlando, Sarasota, Myrtle Beach, Salisbury, Maryland, Vegas, Jacksonville, and Hilo, Hawaii. Florida has 4 places in the top 10 of places to be moved to, which is very interesting. But it makes sense. A lot of older people have been moving around a lot, right? So that's all I got on that. I just want to make sure that y'all know the time is now for people who want to buy a house. The time is now. Your time is now to shine. Take advantage of these investors. Not joking. I've been on point every other time. I need y'all to listen to what I'm telling y'all. Let me go ahead and close these things out here. Real quick before I get up out of here. How long I've been going? I've been going for an hour. Before I get up out of here, did y'all see that Billboard did a top 75 list of the best R&B artists of all time? And of course, I mean, we all know that the list was made for people to argue. That's just what, I mean, they do this stuff so people can argue. But let's look at it. The 75 best R&B artists of all time, full list, staff picks. So these are people that work at Billboard. So we know this is a very unserious company when it comes to music opinions. They don't really know anything except which labels are advertising with them. That's the only thing they can really tell us for real. Like we can't really trust anything they're talking about. Let's go to the top 20. Let's go to the top 20. Okay, they got Chris Brown at 26. They have Patti LaBelle at 25. Bill Withers at 24. Teddy Pendergrass at 23. Luther at 22. Luther Vandross at 22. Donny Hathaway at 21. Otis Redding at 20. Smokey Robinson at 19. Al Green at 18. Janet Jackson at 17. Mary J. Blige at 16. Isaac Hayes at 15. Curtis Mayfield at 14. Sam Cooke at 13. Usher at 12. That's a crazy picture. Ray Charles at 11. Marvin Gaye at 10. R. Kelly at 9. Mariah Carey at 8. Prince at 7. James Brown at 6. Whitney Houston at 5. Beyonce at 4. Michael Jackson at 3. Aretha Franklin at 2. And Stevie Wonder at number 1. Top of the list, Stevie Wonder. Hold up. I know they didn't do Stevie Wonder without a picture. What's this? This is ridiculous. All right. Let's go back all the way to the top so we can read how they came to this list. I think that's more important than the list itself anyway. Her is number 7. Okay. Let's read because they did give some reasoning as to how they came to this thing. Okay. Staff discussions on how to go about determining the entries and rankings were, to say the least, heated. Helping to fuel these illuminating and sometimes raucous discourses were generational debates over old school versus new school. At the same time, Mount Rushmore debates were also raging on social media front as fans weighed in on which R&B artists like Jackson, Chris Brown, Luther Vandross, R. Kelly, and Usher truly deserve to have their images carved in stone for all time. In the end, Billboard staffers agreed on the following criteria: vocal prowess, body of work, career longevity, industry achievements, game-changing influence, and enduring generational cultural impact. While some singers who made the list are also known for their lyrical skills, songwriting wasn't a major deciding factor in this instance, and legendary singers best known for fronting groups versus their solo work were not included, which means a ranking of the best R&B groups of all time is no doubt in the offing. Now, this is my thing, right? The first thing that they said, and I don't know if they ranked these in order, like vocal prowess, body of work, career longevity, industry achievements, game-changing influence, and enduring generational cultural impact. Here's my thing, right? A few notable names that were not on the list at all, I think, were we was just talking about this. Monica wasn't on the list. Faith Evans wasn't on the list. I get Tyrese wasn't on the list. It's odd to me because to me, like when we're talking about R&B careers or R&B artists or something like that, being able to sing should not be a major factor in how you rank here, because we're talking about artists. Because one person, like if they went through and did their scales, might sound better doing scales or hitting different octaves than another artist. But to me, R&B is too much about the feeling. So you got to be able to use your voice to make the best song. It's not really about just the technical aspect of singing itself. Like some people say that Mary J doesn't have one of the best voices, but she has some of the best music. And she is ranked very high, so that's good. But some of the other rankings on the list don't make sense to me. I think Rihanna is in the 40s somewhere. Hold on. Give me a second. Okay, let me see. I think Rihanna's in the 40s somewhere. Hold up. Stephanie Mills at 50, Rick James 50, Rick James 51, John Legend 50, Bobby Brown 49. Like, if you have ever been considered a king of R&B or the king of this genre, it don't make sense to have that many people above you. Right? To me, it don't. Anyway, I don't know how these people came up with this. Lauryn Hill 48, okay. The Weeknd 47. Now, this is to me is the one of the more confusing pieces here, right? Because let's just say you don't like her voice the best, which I feel like that should be 10% at the most, right, of the score. Voice, right? Rihanna has 14 number one songs, a bunch of crazy albums, like R&B albums. Cultural impact, like she is extremely culturally impactful. She has two of some of the biggest R&B songs in the history of the genre, right? With Umbrella and the Diamonds joint. These are some of the biggest, whether you want to recognize them or not, these are some of the biggest R&B songs ever recorded. And she has a whole bunch of hits, there's too many hits, right? So how could a person with her accolades and her longevity being, let's say she had she stopped making music just because she stopped making it in 2016, but she has features after that, but she stopped making her own albums in 2016. So she had a 10-year run of just pure craziness. So how she could be number 46 when her career accolades are on par with like a Beyonce or Mariah. Mariah might have a better voice. Beyonce does have a better voice, but the accolades of the career, Rihanna's not in the 40 nothing. If you're talking about accolades, right? So, how did they do this? Like, I don't understand. A 10-year run, like ridiculous amount of hits. They said they weren't including writing as a criteria, which is also weird because R&B writing is one of the biggest things that matters. Also, writing is everything in R&B. It just don't make sense how a person with this much success as an R&B artist could not be in the top like 20 at least. Like if you want to penalize the singing, that's fine, but like number 46 just don't make sense at all to me. Another person that I don't feel like has done enough to even be on this list at all, Tevin Campbell. And that's not to knock him, but being a child star and then really like not doing much after he became an adult, there's no way that to me he should really be on the list. I feel like his connections, you know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, he was a child star and he was associated with Quincy Jones and all this, but it's been a long time. It's been a very long time since he has impacted really anything. Just because he has songs that like he has a song that really lasted the test of time with Can We Talk, but none of the other ones really. There's the other hit I can't. I'm Ready. I'm Ready is a great song too, but Can We Talk is the Juggernaut song, right? So to me, with one Juggernaut song and like not much else since you've been an adult, there's no way. There's no, like, let me just even read this little piece they got on him. Introduced by Quincy Jones on Tomorrow, the lead single from his Grammy-winning 1989 album Back on the Block, Tevin Campbell was just 14 when he recorded his 1991 debut album, Tevin, but he truly found his voice by the time his sophomore album arrived in 91. Wait, what? Okay, so he put his debut album out and his sophomore album in the same year? Is that what they're trying to say? Because they both say 91. Anyway, I'm Ready paired his sweet tenor with songwriting and production by goats like Kenneth Babyface Edmonds and Prince. Two of Edmonds' contributions, Can We Talk and the title track, are songs that allow Campbell a chance to deliver earnest, wholesome longing for love. Sentiments that had made for some of the sturdiest ballads that R&B had to offer in the 90s. It was cool, but it did, like, we talking about at the most, if you want to give it to him, a 4-year run. So a 4-year run, very few albums, nothing beyond adulthood. And then that was 35 years ago. Like, come on. What are we talking about? And he's in the 50s. That means he's ranked above like 20 other people on this list. Right? And again, we saying that like above Neo. He don't got more hits than Neo. He don't have more hits. He don't have a longer run. He don't have more success than Neo. He has one bigger song, and that's only because they're not counting the songs that Neo wrote. He don't have a better career than Ashanti. He sings better than Ashanti. That's it. Music Soul Child, he definitely don't have better songs than Music. Lettucey, I might need to do some research on Lettucey because why is she on here? For real. I don't even understand this. Now, another thing, even if you go to the top of the list, right? What I want to understand is if you are considering Michael Jackson an R&B artist, then how's he not number one? Like, so then the only thing that you get Stevie Wonder having an advantage over him is the playing the instruments. But that wasn't a factor when they talked about the criteria for ranking this. So there's no part of Stevie Wonder's career. Stevie Wonder might have more number one songs than Michael. But I mean, we all know that Mike has the best music career of anybody. So if you are putting him as R&B, if you have to classify him as R&B, then he got to be number one. Right? And that's like, it's the criteria that I need help understanding. Not even help understanding, like it don't make sense. Whatever the thing is that has Stevie Wonder number one, it wouldn't make sense to have Aretha number two over Michael Jackson. I mean, it just don't make sense. Some of the logic don't make sense. It's like they let different people choose 1 through 10 and somebody else chose 10 through 20 or 11 through 20. That's what it seems like to me because it really the logic don't even carry its way through the list, like at all. Like at this point, in these points in their career, Beyonce been around 25 years, right? So they said they didn't want to count group stuff. So Beyonce has a 22-year run, like a 22-year straight dominant run. Aretha's not above her anymore. She's not. Love Aretha Franklin, love, you know what I mean? R-E-S-P-E-C-T, love it. She ain't above Beyonce at this point. This is no way. You know what I'm saying? I know that some people say she has the best voice ever. That's fine. But your voice can't be the thing that has you ranked above everybody else. It can't be the thing. It really don't make sense. All right? So y'all let me know what y'all think about this Billboard list, man. I think that they just, of course, like they always, like any of these publications always want to do, they care more about going viral. They care more about going viral than they care about getting a list right? They don't care nothing about getting the list right? They have her on here and no Monica. Like, they don't care about the list, clearly. All right? And shout out to her for her Grammys. She got Grammys and all that. She ain't been around long enough, don't have enough hits. Her albums don't sell that well. And I'm a big fan of her. But her is damn near underground R&B, for real. You know what I'm saying? Very little radio success with her. Not to knock her. I like her. Even they got her ranked above Summer Walker. There's no world where her is making better music than Summer Walker right now. They're contemporaries, they're peers, but Summer Walker has better music. So why is her above her? Because she plays instruments? Like, Summer Walker's a writer, producer, and singer. She don't have to play. This is an R&B list. So they said they didn't factor in instrument playing, right? So that's all I got for y'all, man. I'm going to get up out of here. I'm tired. Y'all have a good evening, good week. Please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. Please comment your thoughts below. Let me know what you think. And I'm up out of here, man. Easy.